Hi, thanks for tuning into Street Life. I'm Natasha, back at it with, really to share with you my experience at the Harry Potter experience. Let's get into it. Maybe a few months back now, I started noticing ads for the Harry Potter experience popping up in my Instagram timeline. At first, I didn't really pay any attention. I wasn't planning to attend. But then after a while, I started thinking, you know what? I should probably get out a bit more. And a friend of mine, a coworker actually, showed me some pictures from when she attended the Bridgerton experience. And so she got a full costume and all this kind of stuff, had a really great time. And so I started thinking, you know what? I might enjoy this Harry Potter experience thing. I kind of came into Harry Potter quite late. I don't think I read Harry Potter until after college. And, I ended up reading all the books, watching the movies and whatnot, and ended up really liking it. But I wouldn't say I'm the most diehard fan. So originally, my plan was I was going to get an ugly sweater, one of those ugly Christmas sweaters. But I was going to get a Harry Potter one. It was going to be red and gold for Gryffindor and all this kind of stuff. Didn't work out. I ended up getting the black taxi 12s and decided that I was going to wear those instead. I wasn't going to just get a sweater. I wasn't going to just get a scarf. Instead, I was going to fully lean into this and have an experience that I was going to put together a costume. And so with that, I decided to put together a Harry Potter, let's say, inspired costume, the student costumes that they wore, the uniforms that they wore, and I was going to wear that to the Harry Potter experience. So let's get into it. And so I ended up going down a whole rabbit hole with this thing. It was one thing gave way to another, and by the end of it, I ended up getting really into it. At first, I did feel a bit self-conscious because here I was in pretty much a costume, and there were other people there, but it's they might have had a scarf or a Harry Potter sweater I originally intended to do, and no one else was in a costume.
So when you first enter, you come in, I bought my tickets online. So when I came in, I just went to the coat check. I gave them my ticket information at the check-in desk and whatnot and proceeded in. There's a little cafe. And so I took advantage of that to go ahead and put on my robe thing that I got to go over the uniform. Also took a chance just to look around a bit. I think they sell Butterbeer and some other little snacks and things like that. I didn't get anything and just proceeded from there into the exhibit. From the outset though, the styling and setup begins from the entrance. So when you first walk in, they have the flags for the different schoolhouses hanging. You have this, the walls are kind of painted to look kind of this castle brick type facade. You proceed into this welcome area where they have you enter your name. They give you this little wristband thing and get you kind of set up. They take your picture on into the exhibit where you get a little bit of backstory, you get the map and stuff. And from there, you kind of proceed into what would be the Great Hall. And so if you remember from the movies and from the book, this is where you would come into the main area of the school, and they had these portraits that would move. It was really cool to read about how exactly they made those for the movie. So just the amount of detail, the fat lady's portrait, for example, that it would actually move, and the backstory of them having members of the crew be the subjects of the pictures. So I thought that was actually really cool because I'd never actually watched the behind the scenes commentary or anything. Hermione is my favorite character. And with that, when you come in, you get a chance to choose what house you want to be sorted into. Given that the three main characters are Gryffindor, I chose to go with that house. Although I do like the color blue. I went with Gryffindor. So you go in and you start walking through these different rooms. Each one is kind of like a classroom at the school. So there's the herbology classroom, which is pretty much like a greenhouse. You get to repot these mandrakes, where if you remember from the movie, it was these little plant creature things that would just shrill yelling like banshees. And so you pull these things up out of the pots and it creates the sound that they made in the movie. You have the potions class where you go in, they have like these little cauldrons and whatnot, information about different potions that you might want to make. And with this, when you walk into these rooms and they have these activities, you tap like the little button thing, for lack of a better term, that you have on your wristband, and it logs you in. When you first walked into the experience, you would have kind of created like an account with your name and things like that, and it tracks you throughout the experience. It takes your pictures as you complete like the different activities and things like that. You get points, and it adds on to the points collected for your house. The potions room is pretty cool because it fits the feel of the school, and it's like you have these shelves with jars with all kinds of like weird and random items and things like that. You have then the spell room. So like matching up with like the classes from the book and the movie, and you go in and it has to like cast a spell. I got to choose a Patronus. For mine, I chose a horse because I think they're great animals, but you have like your choice of, choosing whatever you want. And each one of these things you get some sort of points for. There's a fortune teller room. I don't think that's actually what it was called, but it's really cool because it's like, each room that you go into, it's styled to pretty much be like the set from one of the classrooms. So the experience touches on some other places, but mostly focuses on Hogwarts. So you have like the Great Dining Hall. And I thought it was really cool, like, it's not obviously at the full scale of what would have been in the movie or conveyed in the movie, but when you go in, it really captures like the feel of it. And there's some information placards that explain how they went about setting up this scene, about like, originally they had candles hanging from the ceiling, but that proved to be like a fire hazard. And just how like they would kind of change things and move things around for particular scenes in the different movies. So for example, when they had that ball and whatnot, you have Umbridge, who was like the headmaster. She took over for a period from Dumbledore. And so with this, you have her like cat lady, pink room. You walk in, you get to sit at her desk, and that's something that you get to do in quite a few of the rooms, where there's like props that you can play with. Some of the smaller things you can't touch, they're in cases, but you can sit in like the different seats and things like that, take pictures. You have like Hagrid's cabin, so like everything in the room is oversized. If you remember, I think he was like, I can't remember if the term was a giant or something like that, but I'm pretty sure you sit in this big chair. And it's supposed to be like, Hagrid's chair. It's like this big leather armchair. And so you sit down, and I think like you'd have to be pretty huge for this to be like a regular chair for you. So I sat, my legs were like dangling from the end. And it was like, a cool little touch and things like that. You look around the cabin, around his hut, and it's like all of the other things are outsized. I think like it would be amazing for like kids, because they're like even smaller. So I think, that'd be pretty cool, because it was cool for me as an adult, as a short person, that is. Voldemort features quite a bit in the experience. There's like this room that you go into, they're like his Horcruxes and things like that. There's a lot of information about his backstory. All of that's really cool. And they have like the I Am Lord Voldemort thing and the Tom Riddle, real cool stuff. I liked how they brought all of this together. And of course, as part of the book, you also get some of Harry's origin story. So with that, the cupboard under the stairs, like an iconic opening to the book. And it was really cool, just the amount of detail that they got into everything. So it's like there's a room about spells, and you have wands, where it's like there are these oversized versions of some of the characters' wands. And then it's like you have these small cases with wands that would be sized for you to actually hold. And so with that, it's like, I was surprised just how much detail they put into it. We're like, within the book, yes, they spend time describing like the different characters' wands and things like that. But then it's like, here it is that you see these props, and it's like, it's this stake that you as the audience wouldn't really see up close. But when you look at it, they still took the time to put the required detail into it, right? To kind of match the details from the book. Spend some time discussing like Quidditch, like the details of the game. And you have like an actual Stitch, a Quidditch broom, really cool stuff. And then you also have like a time turner, like just crazy with the detail. So I haven't read beyond the main Harry Potter series, like any of the other books that have come out since, but I was aware of the Ministry of Magic from when they were kids. So there's some discussion of that in some of the other books as well, like they came out after Harry Potter, but I was less familiar with those characters and things like that.
I had an amazing time. I had a really good time. I felt that overall, it was a good and a positive experience. I'm glad that I went. But I do feel like sometimes in Atlanta, this along with some other activities can sometimes be a bit overpriced. I went like right around the holidays. It was maybe like the week before Christmas. There weren't a lot of people. And I don't really remember seeing any other kids. It was mostly like, seemed like college-age kids, families, and things like that. But for the most part, it was like adults. From the reviews that I read online, from like the Google reviews and the pictures that I saw, I think that typically people take a lot of their kids. And I was expecting that because school was out by that point, that it would be just like jam-packed with kids. But it wasn't. There weren't that many people. It was really easy to move through the exhibit. At some points, and for a good portion of it, I was like the only person in like the area, and I could have probably ended up walking through the entire thing without coming into contact with anyone else aside from like the employees. But, I was taking my sweet time because I'm taking pictures and shooting video and all this kind of stuff. I liked getting like a kind of behind the scenes look into the making of it, especially with regards to like props and wardrobe and things like that. By the time I went, it ended up being like a few dollars short of $50. So it's like, imagine, now I'm not a kid, I don't have kids, but I would imagine maybe it might be a little bit cheaper for kids. But if you were going yourself, your significant other, you're taking your kids, it could get to be quite pricey, and I find that as well with quite a few other, like events like this or experiences that you might want to have, that it can get pricey really quickly. The upside to it is that I don't know if it's like since COVID, because prior to like, I wasn't going to a lot of activities and events, but a lot of times when you go, it's not like jam packed. Like, you go to museums and stuff like that in New York, and it's like they're giving away freeness. But that's not really the case here. I don't really know what the cause of it is, but typically when you go to these kinds of events, it's like, it feels like the space is manageable, right? Or at least that's been my experience so far. I would definitely go back to something like this again. Unfortunately, now that I'm no longer living in New York, it's like, since I interacted with this ad and saved it and stuff like that, and I click like the link and whatever, Instagram now sends me, or I now see like ads for a lot of other events and experiences and things like that, which is cool because I'm like more open to going to things now. But unfortunately, part of it is that because I used to live in New York, they also send me links to stuff, or I see ads about things in New York or the New York area. And it's like, right when I move or after I move, here it is. It's like, one Harry Potter thing here in Atlanta. And then in New York, you've got like 50 million different Harry Potter things. I think they've got like a Harry Potter store now in Manhattan. They've got, at least around the holidays, I think, going a bit outside of the city, there was like a Forbidden Forest kind of thing. Then you had like another kind of experience. There were at least like 3 Harry Potter things. And that's in addition to other experiences and events of this nature for like other shows and movies and whatnot. Like I just started seeing a thing for, I think it's like a studio tour for Game of Thrones thing, which is like a show that I actually liked. I am kind of curious, though I don't think I'd make a trip specifically for that, to see the like the Diagon Alley experience that they have at, I think it's Universal Studios. I've kind of got like my feelers out now for other events of this nature, things that I could go to that I think might be fun, that might present like some good photo opportunities.
Thank you for tuning in. To ensure you don't miss any episodes, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and check out my travel and visit playlist. Go ahead and click that thumbs up button if you like what you saw, and go ahead and share it on social media.